Welcome to Every Widow Thing. My name is Whitney. We're going to go around and just introduce ourselves because with 4 voices in the room, it can get a little confusing. So my name is Whitney.
I'm Keira.
I'm Holly.
And I'm Lacey.
Today, we thought we would mix it up a little bit. Most of our themes are heavy because we're talking about death and feeling alone and all of those types of things, and it can get very heavy. So we decided that for this episode, we were going to try to keep it light. And then you go to, what's light about being a widow? There ain't much to talk about. But one of the things that I love to talk about are the signs that I get from my husband. So we thought it might be fun to share a little bit about that, talk a little bit about the idea of messages from the other side, from specifically our husbands. And it just ties in perfectly because I'm reading this book right now, ironically called Signs, The Secret Language of the Universe by Laura Lynn Jackson. And for those of you who have been listening, you know that I, Whitney, am all about that side, that spiritual, soulful side, talking. I love talking to mediums and getting my palm read and all of those things. So I feel like I was open to signs very early on. So we're going to let the other widows talk a little bit first because I could take up the entire episode with all of my my signs that I feel like Hunter sends to me. So first of all, what do you guys, was that something that you thought of fairly quickly after your husband died? Or, was it something that you never think about? Like, give me a little insight into what you guys feel about signs.
I kind of felt like once the shock wore off, because shock lasts about 6 weeks in sudden death. So I did the opposite. I did a lot of reading of understanding what happens
with the trauma.
With the trauma part of it, and also when they die, like what's happening to the body. I think it was easier for me to process the pain by going into my head. But as soon as that wore off, I started looking for signs because I was looking for any type of peace and comfort. And like you, I believe in God, but I was angry. Mm-hmm. I was angry at him for all that had happened. So I don't know if you guys experienced that too.
I was too.
Angry. Yeah.
Very angry.
So you weren't thinking.
I wasn't looking at the time because I was angry. But I did have a friend that recommended a medium in Austin. This was, I don't know if I.
Yeah, we were talking by then because I remember.
Had I already gone?
No, I don't think so.
That brought a lot of peace.
Because you got to feel like you were hearing from Toby.
Yes.
Through the medium.
Like the things she knew. She didn't know anything about me. She didn't even know my last name when I went in. And she started talking about the accident and like details. And I'm like, she would never have known that. And so that's when I kind of started.
That kind of opened up the idea in your head of, oh, maybe he's trying to talk to me. Mm-hmm. But you hadn't had any sensation before that?
No, but she told me that he gave me signs in the hospital. And so then I was like backtracking. I was like, well, what were they? What were they? And
she never told you. She didn't know.
She didn't know. But he told her.
That he was trying to give you some signs.
When things happen that fast, because people don't realize in sudden death, and it's instant, like it was for all, well, definitely us 3. You had not much time, but a little bit. There's no time to think, I'm going to pay attention to anything. I was so grateful for the shock because I didn't feel much.
Well, in this book that I'm reading, it does talk about how right away they are trying to send us messages because they want to comfort us because they're fine. They're over there, full body, full heart, full emotion, full light, full everything. And we're the ones that are feeling terrible and anything but whole, right? And so they're trying to bring us some comfort and joy. So tell me, Holly, have you had a sign? Is there any sign experience that you want to share?
Well, I've had a couple of. The big one that stands out is I was moving Gabe and my 20-year-old college age, in the third year this past August. And, going through move-in, as you know, Keira, when you're moving your college age kids, don't cry, Lacey. It's emotional when you're doing it by yourself.
Yes.
And all the other dads are there setting up and helping and carrying.
Yes. The freshman year, my sister helped me, and that was 2020. So I was just so happy he was going to college.
Right. This was during the pandemic.
Right. So that year was okay. And then the second year, there's a little bit of drama. Like, I panicked a little bit. But then third year, he was moving into a house. So we're moving furniture. He was driving the U-Haul. I was driving my car by myself. And I just broke down on the way from Austin, driving up to Fort Worth. And I was crying. I think I called you crying. I don't know. I was
calling
people crying. And I was just panicked because I was like, how are we going to put all this IKEA furniture together? So stupid.
That sends everyone into a panic.
So I pull in. I got to the house first, and I was pulled in, and I'm sitting in the driveway by myself crying. And Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles came on. And that was a song that that was played at his memorial.
Oh. So you immediately felt
I was
calmer.
Okay, I got this.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I love that. I love that.
I felt a little calm when you said that because I always hold my breath when you guys are telling your stories. I don't know why I find myself doing that. I guess because it's emotional.
Yeah, it is emotional.
Don't pass out on us.
I know. That would make for a great podcast if you just passed out right now. What about you, Keira? What do you feel about signs? Was it something, obviously, in your case, you were in the hospital for quite some time. You had to just focus on the physical here and now.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I was looking for signs per se. I had a strong urge to know that he was all right. I kind of had this feeling. I also, believe in God, grew up Christian, wasn't really connecting with God in those moments, but I was trying to connect with Frank for sure. And I was in the hospital for many weeks, and there was just a lot of a fugue state where I was in and out of surgery, and I was on medication, and I had some emergency situations even within the hospital where I was in trouble, and a lot of in and out of sleep and consciousness. And so there were dreams in which he came to me quite frequently in the hospital. He was still alive. I was so relieved to see him. And maybe that was the sign that he was okay on the other side. But that was also very painful because in the dream, we would just be hanging out like everything was fine. Right. And he would act as though none of this had happened. And I would say, but wait, we had this massive car accident. And he would say, what do you mean? No, And then I would wake up and I, had tubes and casts and bandages and I'm alone and I'm in this hospital room. And so it was like moments of joy, connecting with him, and then harsh reality. So that, I don't know if that's a sign, but at least it gave me some reassurance, I guess, just to see his face and
I think they do come in dreams.
Connect with him.
I think it is a sign. The confusion for me can be when the purpose is for them to come and bring us comfort and joy, and then that dream actually does the opposite. Or, Lacey, you've talked before about your dream situation with Oliver.
They're never good. They're always that he comes back and he acts as though nothing has happened. And I'm like, where have you been? And he never answers the question. But like you, Keira, I did not look for signs early on. I was just trying to get through the day. And maybe I was not that spiritual because I was so angry.
Right.
But I had, when we talked about, we were going to talk about signs, I thought about it yesterday, and then it escaped my brain again. Because that's what happens when you're a widow. Sometimes you can't remember things, or maybe it's my age. I don't know.
We're going to go with widow.
We'll go with that. The widow brain. But right after Oliver died, I guess it was just like a month later, I had to take him to the pediatrician because Ryder had strep. To back up, my husband died of group A strep toxic shock, which we talked about. But my son also had strep at the same time. So the pediatrician had immediately put him on an antibiotic. He got better. The problem was, he said, you're going to have to see an ENT. So we went to see the first ENT, and the guy, I'll never forget his face. He was such a jerk. He said, if that kid doesn't get his tonsils out right away, he's going to die.
What?
Uh-huh.
And this
he
is
knew what
after
had
Oliver had already died. And he said it knowing.
And so I took him outside, and we had a chat, as you can only imagine.
You led that man out by his ear.
And then I took my son and we left, and I immediately found someone else, Dr. Mark Brown, God love him, I hope he hears this, went to see him, and he said, look, yes, he does need to have them out. If it's not today, it's not a month, it's not 6 months, if it's a year. He said, before the year, we need to take them out because they're rather large. And he said, and he keeps getting sick. So flash forward, we set up the surgery, and on surgery day, a nurse came and got him and said, we're going to take you back to the waiting room of the OR. And she let me and my sister, and my mom was at home, let us come in there and be with him. Mm-hmm. So we started talking. Ryder's, of course, playing his German Game Boy that his dad had given him. He's playing that, seems oblivious to that he's about to have surgery. And the nurse introduced her name, and I didn't catch it, but I heard her German accent. It was super heavy. And I said, where are you from? And she said, I'm from Germany. And I said, oh, I could tell that. I said, what did you say your name was? And she said, Dagmar. When she looked at me and said that, you know when someone's looking at you and they see you.
Yes.
And you know
I'm getting chills right now. Is anyone else getting chills?
Yeah.
That was Oliver's mother's name.
Oh my God.
Wow.
She died when Oliver was 10.
Mm.
And it was like, and I'm still, that day, I still can see her looking at me. And I said, you're kidding. And she goes, I'm not. And then she started speaking German to my son, who'd had 3 years of German classes, but he wasn't that good. He was like, meine Deutsch ist nicht gut. So that's about all I know. So he was answering her. And then as they went back, they were speaking in his limited German on the way back. And I just got this sense of peace.
Did you tell her, the nurse?
Oh, I told her that my late husband's mother's name was that, but she was looking at me as though she knew.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Crazy.
Oh, wow.
My sister said, I said, am I imagining that? She goes, no.
Yeah. That's part of, when you think of signs, it doesn't just have to be like a bluebird that literally lands on your shoulder, and gives you a kiss on the cheek. Like it doesn't have to be. That would be amazing, by the way. That would be amazing. Hunter,
Cinderella?
I want that one next. But it can be circumstances where, for example, they bring a person in at the exact right time that has a tie. Like I'm still getting chills from that story.
A stressful moment, right?
Yes.
Your son's going into surgery.
Kids that had to have surgery right after, and I wasn't prepared for that. It was just scary, and to put your kid under.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I was
frightening.
a mess. My kids have both, 2 out of the 3 have gotten their wisdom teeth pulled. I have been a disaster both times when the boys went in. Because one, I'm by myself,
Right.
and I'm the emotional one. I know y'all are shocked. But in the relationship, Hunter was the grounded one, and I was always up here, and I was trying to ground myself. And both times I'm sitting in the waiting room, and our band was Journey. Hunter always came to me through music. That's his main way for us to communicate is through music. And a Journey song played both times. Now, you could say the naysayers or the eye rollers or whatever out there could be like, okay, well, Journey's a popular band, especially now, elevator music type, whatever. And I'm like, it's classic. Anyway, so, okay, fine. One time maybe a coincidence, but both times he brought me that calmness through that song. And I hear that song just over spring break. I was sad because I was skiing with the kids by myself. And that's when it hits you a lot, when you're doing something as a family and he's not there. And so it doesn't feel like you're with your family fully. And I was really bummed about it. And 4 different times he brought a Journey song to me. And he loved Bullet bourbon. And I see that as a sign a lot too. And we went into our Airbnb and I opened the cabinets, and up at the very top, they were like throwaway cups, like little like plastic cups that most people, it's not like the Airbnb was like, we're going to put these nice plastic Bullet, cups or whatever up there. It was like somebody had just saved them. And they were up there at the very top. And I was like, okay, he's here. It's not the same. I want him here to help me take these freaking boots off,
But skiing is so much work.
Oh my gosh, I was exhausted. But
people don't realize those vacations are hard.
Yes, they really are.
When you go alone with your kid, and part of it is you have no other adult to talk to.
Yes.
So in trying to coordinate other girlfriends.
Waiting for Sydney to turn 21.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, she's drinking now. She's 20.
But I think
it's hard.
Trying to find other adults to go on vacation's really hard because their kids have to have the same spring break or other holidays. I've tried to do that, and sometimes it works out, but a lot of times it doesn't. So it's you and your kid. The good news is I don't know about you, but it's brought me closer to my son.
Mine just go in their room.
Lonely.
I call it forced family fun, and I make them engage with me some, but still, even this last trip, they will ski together, sort of. I'm falling and they're going down the mountain, but
you're going down the mountain.
I'm going down the mountain on my butt. Yeah. Wait for me. But when we got home, they kind of want to veg and they're on their phones.
Right.
I wonder how it would have been pre-phones, because I love to play board games and stuff. Yeah. But anyway.
Like movies.
Yeah. But I definitely think in those moments, especially like on vacation, be aware. And it can be something like, sometimes it's like very specific to you, like you talk about there's a license plate, Lacey. You had a nickname for Oliver that you don't want to share because it's a little naughty. But give us that story again.
I posted on our Instagram, Every Widow thing, that it's happened twice that I was driving along. Usually it's happening when I'm kind of upset and just thinking, and I'm talking to myself. I do that quite a lot. So if you see me in the car and I'm riding around, I'm not singing. I'm actually talking to myself.
Oh, wow. So the radio's off?
Because I play things out in my head, but I do it out loud. But this particular day that I posted it, I ran into a car. I was right behind it, had NGB, and that was his nickname. From the moment I met him, that's what I started calling him, and it stuck with him. But I don't want to share it.
Let's just say it's naughty German boy or something, because that's NGB, naughty German boy. But that is something that
maybe
they do send. It can be license plate numbers. It can be there are some common ones that a lot of people feel. Red cardinals. I just saw one yesterday, and I told Hunter. Ladybugs. I have a bazillion ladybugs. Music is another one. Rainbows. I
have a story I want to share.
Yes.
Since we were talking about spring break. So our spring break plans got changed due to a tragedy.
Those still happen even after you've been through one.
So my older son's, one of his best friends committed suicide. And so our plans changed. We were at a funeral over spring break, and I was sitting there with my son and his 2 friends.
That were good friends.
They were all best friends, and we were in Seattle, so it was supposed to be
rainy,
cold and rainy. I was like, I stressed over what shoes I was going to wear to the funeral.
You had several clothing options.
And
she did.
We are sitting in the church, and the priest was talking about my son's friend and his life. and there were like windows in the church, and the sun, the clouds cleared, and the sun blasted through and like shined directly on Gabe and his friends.
That is so amazing.
It's amazing.
And I just like looked up, and they
Did they notice it?
But it was bizarre.
Did
I
you
was
guys
like,
ever talk about it after that?
No, but I will talk to Gabe about. I mean, we were all,
Yeah.
I kind of thought about it later. I mean, I noticed it in the moment, but I just was like, wow.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you
That's
recognize in that moment
I
that
did.
was his way of shining down on these boys?
Yeah.
I love that. And it actually,
it's
I
such
know
a
so many
heavy thing.
people say,
Such
well,
a
I don't
hard
get any
thing.
signs, but I'm telling you, you are getting something. And it's just, don't let your brain talk yourself out of it. That's another thing that I think happens. A song will come on the radio, or you'll have a moment, a thought, all of a sudden they'll come into your head and you're like, oh, well, no, that's not them. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, and since I met you, I've been better about that. I had a spring break sign also, and I tend to rationalize everything like, oh, well, that's just because this, that, and the other. And then I decided this time to just embrace it as, Frank reaching down and
Yes.
lending a hand. And
So what happened?
What was it?
well, as you guys know, so my son Thomas, I have the two girls on either side, and then I have my son Thomas in the middle. He's also a senior in high school. We've been going through the college application process, which has been really stressful. And he has really tried to emulate his dad. He was 9 when his father passed. So he has a lot of memories and good memories. And, he plays soccer because of his dad. He plays guitar because of his dad. And he's very good at math. And at one point along the high school road decided, I want to study business. His father has an MBA from the University of Virginia. And so we're starting the college process. And last April, a good friend of Frank's from Darden Business School reached out and said, I'd like to take Thomas to, his name is also Tom, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I'd like to take Thomas to the Darden reunion with me and my daughter, and who's also looking at colleges, and, he can meet some of Frank's friends from B school and
cool.
see the college and all of that. And I was just so grateful because when someone reaches out to help,
Absolutely.
I'm already struggling with college visits and juggling the other 2 kids. And so I'm like, thank you so much. That's fabulous. Thomas would love to go. So he goes to the business school reunion and gets to meet a lot of people that knew his dad in an academic setting, which was kind of cool. Got him kind of, jazzed about college in general and about UVA. So fast forward to the fall, he decides he wants to early decision to University of Virginia. So his counselor's on board. We do the whole thing. And unfortunately, he was deferred. So that was disappointing. And the whole time I'm praying to Frank. I'm like, okay, Frank, just this is what he wants. Just throw him the bone. Just get him into this school.
Right.
He's worked really hard. He's such a good kid. He just wants to follow in your footsteps. So he was deferred. So we kind of as you do, if you've had a kid go through this process, you kind of move on. You continue with your apps. He got into some other great schools. And then over spring break, I actually wasn't with him. He was in California with some friends, and I was with my youngest skiing in Colorado. And I get this, email that the UVA regular decision is coming out, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother Thomas. He's having fun with his friends. Just not going to pester him because they're so over it at this point. And we're on the mountain all day, skiing on Friday. I don't have any service up there really. So we get down the mountain, return put the equipment up, trudge back to the car in those horrible boots. get in the car, and I look at my phone, and there's a text from Thomas that he got into UVA.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. And I mean, I just started bawling. And his sister from the back seat's like, Mom, what's wrong?
That is so
And I'm like,
awesome.
I'm just so happy for your brother. Like this is something he wanted. And I was like in my head, I'm with my boyfriend. So in my mind, I'm like, thank you, Frank, for doing this for our son. And anyway, it was just, I took it as a sign.
Awesome.
I mean, I could have said, oh, well, he just worked really hard and he's a really good student and he deserves to go there, which he does.
I assume he's
It's all
been
of
there.
it.
Did he decide he's going to go there?
Like,
Yeah.
he's still, I think he will go, but, I think he has other options. He's waiting on a couple more schools.
Well, they made him wait. He can make them wait. How about
Exactly. So, but he's pretty excited about the option, and he wants to go take another look. So we might go.
I think,
for one more
and when
visit.
you go for another visit, be looking for signs. I feel like, you're right. Some people would say, oh, well, you can make the decision to say, no, it had nothing to do with signs. But why not believe that it actually does have something to do with our loved ones? I feel like Hunter has saved me from many car accidents. I swear, I feel like there have been times when he literally has taken the wheel for me, and I'm like, why? Of course, when people die, their bodies die. The love that they have, their personalities, that energy, that's not gone. And so they still love us. They want to help us and protect us and support us. And I choose to believe that most of the things that bring Hunter to my mind are from Hunter, But there have been some hilarious things. For example, like I said, Hunter likes to talk to me through the music. Because he was very musical. He played the guitar and the drums, and, I sing all the time, much to everyone's chagrin. But he's very musical. He loved music. He was always looking for new bands and stuff to follow. And he was also very athletic. He was a Renaissance man. He did everything well. But one of the things that he wanted for our son, who was very athletic, is soccer and to be on a club soccer team. So when we moved to Austin, that was something that he wanted for my son. And I said, fine, you have to do that. I got 3 kids. We were living farther away from their schools and their life than we realized at the time. So I was doing a lot of driving. And I'm like, I'm not putting one more thing on my plate, right? You can handle that because it's out of town tournaments and back and forth, Holly, from baseball and stuff. And you did club soccer too, Keira, right?
So much soccer.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So I was like, I'm not doing that. Have fun. And then he died. So guess who's stuck with it? Me, right? And there was one night, probably 2 months after Hunter passed away, that I'm driving on and in Austin, there are several roads that are like highways, but there's no lights. It is pitch black out there. So I'm on Southwest Parkway, pitch black, 10 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted, and I'm driving to pick up Hayden from soccer practice. And I just started reaming on Hunter. I was just like, this is bullshit. This wasn't part of the plan. I don't want to do this. I shouldn't be having to do this. And now you got me doing this. And this is just so unfair. And the next song that comes on the radio is Too Late to Apologize by One Republic. And I just started laughing. I was like, you know what? It is too late to apologize, but well played, And then I just sang the song as loud as I could and went and picked up Hayden. But that is Hunter. And if you think about your husband and their personalities, that's also how they're going to give their signs.
Exactly.
Yesterday, I saw that red cardinal out on the tree, and I was like, okay, Hunter, if that's you, can the bird please come to the windowsill? Can it just get a little closer? And I was staring at the bird, and the bird was staring at me. And I had this thought of like, oh, no, Hunter doesn't like to do what he's told. He's not going to perform. So this is a standoff. He's not going to let that bird come closer. I should just be happy that the bird's here, So that's another thing that you need to consider when you're considering the person that you want the sign to come from. And it can be, like I said, something generic. A lot of people talk about coins showing up randomly.
I just thought of something. It can come through your children. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
I remember, it just came to me just this minute.
Thank you, Oliver.
Early, exactly. And he was an introvert and very quiet, polar opposite of me. So everything was always subtle. So the signs, I guess they are subtle. But I remember this now, right after he died, I remember crying in the kitchen. And Ryder was, he's 6 years old. So I would let him see me cry a little bit, but never going into, quote, the ugly cry because I just didn't want to scare him.
I went in the closet for those.
I went to the bathtub.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there crying, and he was upstairs. That's where his playroom was. So I could always feel like I could hear him. For some reason, I didn't hear him that day. And he came down the stairs, and he's such a sweet little boy. He goes, "Just let it out, Mama." And he took his hand and put it in the small of my back and rubbed it up and down. That's what his dad used to do.
I just got chills.
Like his dad would never come up and try to fix my problems, because I hate when people do that when you're having, just listen.
Mm-hmm.
He would always just go, "Okay, sweets." And he would kiss me on top of the head, and he would rub in the small of my back and keep going. And I thought, did Ryder notice that he did that, or did he do that?
I think
and then I thought he wouldn't have noticed that. Kids don't pay attention to stuff like that.
No, he was 6.
So in that moment,
he could barely reach the small of your back. Probably you're so tall.
Well, that's true. He was really little. He
need
was
a
really
stool to
little
kiss the top of your head.
Exactly. Oh, he'd need a ladder.
No, I think that's
Sweet.
absolutely Oliver coming through. That's another thing that it just reminded me. The words that our loved ones would use. Hunter's word. We would always have a budget talk on Sundays. It was delightful. And one of the words he would always use.
We had a spreadsheet.
We had spreadsheets out the wazoo. But he would always say, "We're hemorrhaging money. We're hemorrhaging money." And I'd be like, in my head, I was like, God, hemorrhage is such a horrible word, And then cut to later, I did go, like I shared, I've talked to a couple of different mediums, but I went to a medium, and one of the first things she said was, hemorrhaging. He feels like you may be hemorrhaging a little bit on the money situation. I was like, you know what? He's dead, so he can't say anymore what I do with the money.
From that word, please?
Right, hemorrhage. But
he's just trying to remind you, rein it in.
Yeah, well, it's validation. Right? Those things are also validation so that your brain can't say, no, that's just a coincidence. I'm a firm believer there are no coincidences. That us all being together is a sign. I feel like our guys were like, we need to get our women together so that they can support and help each other now that we're not there. I don't think it's a coincidence. There's lots of widows that, especially Lacey, you've been introduced to. You're not pulling them into a group.
No.
There's a reason.
There are many that I've met that are perfectly nice people, but you got to have more than just the fact that our husbands are gone to be able to hang out on them and do fun things with.
Exactly. There's a deeper connection. It's an energy thing that I think our guys have kind of helped facilitate. So
it would be funny if they'd met. Wouldn't that be funny? Like
they have met. I just said they're up there meeting right now.
I wonder.
I know what you mean.
Lacey's like, for real though.
For real. Like for real in person, it would have
Right.
been funny to see
how they all
Toby and
interacted.
Oliver look similar.
I sometimes wonder if Toby and Frank met around baseball, maybe in a moment. I mean, possibly.
Maybe.
I can safely say Hunter met none of them because we didn't live here. I could talk about this for hours upon hours. I did want to share because I have heard several times, and even some of you in this group have said, well, I don't get a lot of signs, or maybe I'm not open enough to it. And so I wanted to, I'm reading this book, Signs by Laura Lynn Jackson. It's really awesome. But she shares a little bit of how you can kind of try. First of all, you don't have to be ready for a sign. You don't have to be open necessarily. I thought that, you have to be really open and aware. And you do to see all of them. But sometimes they're going to get the sign to you whether you're ready or not. Just like that small of the back sign that you got from Oliver, you weren't necessarily registering it in the moment, but when you look back, you recognize, it's that hindsight is 2020. So one of the things that she suggests in the book for looking for signs is going back and thinking, well, could this possibly have been Hunter or Oliver or Toby or Frank? And the answer, I think, is yes, it is. It is. So that's one way to kind of think, well, you are going to have some signs. So you look back. But another thing that you can do is, like I said before, if it's in your head, if they come into your head, that's them. Don't question it, And some would say, well, aren't you always thinking about them? It's different. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes Hunter will come into my head and I just feel his sense of humor or something. It's not really from me. Does that make sense? No, yes.
No.
Yeah.
Most of mine comes through people and a lot through my son because they're similar.
Yes.
But just their nuances are very similar. And unlike, I don't know about some of your kids were older, Ryder doesn't remember him all that well. So his way in the world makes me think, gosh, is that him or is that just that they're biologically
Well, I think it's both. I think
similar.
It's both. But I have read, not in this book, but in other things that I've read, they'll say like if you see someone on the street and it looks like your person, take that as just a little nudge, a hello from them, or if you see their name. One time I was sitting on my porch and this big truck came by and it had Hunter on the side. I'd never seen that truck before. I don't think I've ever seen it since.
I see
feel
Ryder
like that
trucks
was
all
him.
the time. Though.
Well, sure. But if you saw an Oliver,
but when he was little, he thought those were his.
I'll share one more because I know I'm sharing way too many, but this one was really crazy because I was driving in the car and I can't remember. I think it was early on and I was sad and I'm listening to the radio and I just said, I'm just really missing you right now. Can you just give me something, And the radio announcer came on and he was announcing the winner of some contest that they had just had. And the winner was Wendell. Okay, well, y'all didn't know this, but that's Hunter's first name is Wendell. And I was
knew
like,
that.
So weird.
You knew that.
I don't know. I didn't know
Remember
that.
why I know that?
No, because you said, because when that's
Why
a whole
did they
nother
name
thing.
him that?
It was just, right? I know.
His parents didn't love him.
He was named after his grandfather, so y'all can all suck it.
Oh, sorry.
But Wendell, not a lot of people knew that. But some people would say, okay,
There's
well,
a reason for that.
But how many Wendells do you know? Number one, and how many Wendells?
There's
would
one
be,
on Bumble.
oh, right, Holly.
Well,
one
dating's
day
a whole nother episode.
When are you going out with Wendell?
she's not. 'Cause
No.
she said, go ahead and tell the story.
I have a thing about names, and I would
She was
sit.
complaining to me.
I would sit in Whitney like, not this one. I can't go. Not the name. Not the name. One of them
Right.
was Wendell.
And she's like, I can't go out with him. His name is Wendell.
I went
I
on
go-
a date with a Frank. I was set up with a Frank.
Oh, that's funny.
And I mean, it's a pretty common name.
Well, if you forget their name, it makes it easier.
He was also a widower, so it was sort of like
oh, wow.
oh, you guys can get together and
talk about your
bond
dead
over
people.
your dead spouse. But I remember being really conflicted about, we just went and had a bite to eat. It was not a big deal. But I remember being sort of
when you
conflicted about
hesitated,
that.
I was like,
Why? Like, I don't know if I could date another Frank, right? How
Yeah,
odd would
that's
that be?
Yeah.
It
It's
would
better
just-
than Wendell.
Hey,
I mean, I don't know if I could ever date a Wendell, to be fair, but
well, guess what, you guys? I did, and it was amazing. All right.
Didn't go by Wendell.
But he went by Hunter. But if
there's
his,
a reason he went by Hunter.
yes, there definitely
I mean,
was.
like,
But anyway, going back to the sign, how crazy is that? How crazy
we
is that?
diverted.
We diverted.
That's okay.
That
You
happens
had to
to us
make
all
fun
the
of my
time.
We just want to talk
make
about
fun
dating.
of my dead husband's name. We are going to talk about dating. We were going to talk about it this time, but we felt like maybe we should hold off a little bit longer just because of the audience that we may be getting. You may be a new widow and not even thinking about dating at all, or you may be a new widow and all you can think about is dating. But either one is right. But we felt like maybe we'll leave that to maybe a two-parter because that's going to be a long episode.
Why are you looking at me?
Because Keira, Because Keira, you've dated the most out of all of us. Take it away, Keira. It's going to be the Keira hour.
Oh, I have so many funny stories.
Anyway, we just want you guys to know out there listening that you aren't alone. You're not alone in the earthly plane, whether it's your family or friends or other people who are going through the same thing as you. Find those people because they will help you and support you and give you something that you need in the moment. Probably something that your loved one is sending to you, bringing the right people at the right time. And if you are interested in being aware and looking for signs, have patience. Ask your person, send me something. It doesn't have to be, it can be very specific. Like one of the stories in the book that I'm reading right now, they wanted a giraffe and the Eiffel Tower at the same time. That's bizarre, right? So it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like, and then boom, a giraffe on the Eiffel Tower showed up. It took a couple of weeks, but they went into the bathroom of a friend and there was a painting with a giraffe and the artist had made the giraffe kind of meld into the Eiffel Tower.
Bizarre.
That's crazy.
That is.
But
Frank would just be like,
well,
I'm not
Hunter's
doing
rolling
that.
his eyes. Yeah, Hunter's totally rolling his eyes. But
I got better things to do here in heaven.
right. But you can ask for specific things, but then you just have to be very patient because it's not necessarily happening overnight. It could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months later before you get that specific sign. But just being aware and having faith that when you do have the feeling it's from your partner or your loved one, that it is actually them. That's the worst part. I think our brain tries to tell us that it's not true.
And if you're talking to people who don't believe it's true, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they think. It only matters what you think, that they were your person, not their person.
That's right.
And they didn't lose that person either.
That's right.
There's a big, because I'm sure all of you felt the same way, that the way you look at death is very different now that you've experienced it so closely. I mean, we probably all experienced death in terms of things that weren't as close as like a spouse.
Right, or a grandparent or something that you feel like it was their time.
But this is very different.
It is.
So I just want to say one thing about signs, because for me, I tend to fight these things. I'm probably the opposite of Whitney. I'm always looking for the rational explanation, and I'll even fight it. If it's coming at me, I'll rationalize and say, oh, well, this is that and the other. But this one time, a little bit over like a year and a half after Frank's death, I happened to be in San Francisco on a trip. I was on my own that day. I walked the whole city. I was just trying to, have some alone time without the kids and walking around the city. I end up in Golden Gate Park. I end up in accidentally in the AIDS Memorial Grove. And there's this really lovely area that's it's like a grove. It's enclosed and it's quiet. There happened to be nobody else there. And I just sort of sat and took a moment and I looked down, and some of you may have been there, but there's a bunch of names on the ground, and it kind of spirals out into a spiral, and it's names of people that have passed away from AIDS. And I'm just sitting on this bench relaxing. I look down and the first name I see is Frank. And I'm going, okay, it's a common name. My eye just went there. And I played this little game with myself. I mean, if somebody had been there, they would have thought I was insane, because I played this little game with myself where I looked away and I closed my eyes and I looked down at like a totally different area of the spiral. It's this big spiral of, hundreds of names. And I saw another Frank.
Oh
and
my God,
I was trying to just
and
not
Frank's like,
see,
listen, woman.
Right? I was really trying to
stubborn.
just like snap out of it. This is crazy. I did it 4 more times.
Oh
and
my
I kept
gosh,
finding
that's crazy.
Franks in the spiral. And I don't know if that's just subconscious mind, if that was him.
No, okay, stop. What? You're still doing it.
I know.
Of course it was him.
I know there's other skeptics out there.
What is wrong with thinking it was him? Like
With
why?
all your dating, he wanted you to remember Frank.
Nothing wrong with it. But that was one of those like hammer over the head moments.
Yes.
Where I was like, okay, I can't be a skeptic anymore. This might be something coming through. And it was just this very peaceful, beautiful place, obviously, in memory of people that had passed away. So I did feel like, okay, of all the places, this is an appropriate space for him to reach out.
I love it.
But I haven't had a ton of those like hammer over the head like
Well,
that.
look at how you talk yourself out of things so quickly.
It's just my
He had to
personality.
prove himself like 4 times. And even now when you're telling the story, you're like, well, maybe.
But look how far I've come now.
No,
I'm
you're
like,
doing great.
I'm like, thanks for UVA. I'm
Yeah.
going to put that on him. I'm giving that to him.
I love it. If you think about your person, they loved us so much. They want us to be well. They want us to be happy. They want us to live life fully, especially now. They recognize, when you're an earthly person, you don't realize that how special it is that we're all here. I mean, it's pretty amazing that we're literally spinning on this round thing in space. Yeah, we can breathe. We can walk on. I mean, it's just crazy. My mind is being blown right now, as you can tell. Anyway, I'll get off my pep talking, but I love it. I could talk about it forever. The signs, I truly believe, are there, and it is supposed to bring us comfort and peace. Keep your eyes open. Talk to your person. Ask them to bring you a sign, and then don't question it when it comes.
I know. And just enjoy it. Embrace and enjoy.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys. Anybody want to say anything else? Or
Nope.
All right.
Yeah.
As always,
So
you can
wrap
go
on
to
the signs.
That's right. And you can go to another sign right now is to go to Instagram and follow us, Every Widow Thing. Just click the follow button and you'll get more interesting information like the stuff you got today. Thank you.